Here we go. So I'm going to zoom in on this. All right. Suppose the government borrows $20 billion more next year than this year. Use a supply and demand diagram to analyze this policy. Does the interest rate rise or fall? Well, first of all, we're going to think of this in terms of supply and demand. If you have this classwork open on Kami. Now, first thing I'd like to point out to you is this little zoom in button. All right, the plus. I'm going to zoom in by a significant amount here, okay? So I started you off with a supply and a demand diagram. Remember that the supply of loanable funds comes from a combination of public savings and private savings. Okay? The demand for loanable funds comes from people that want to take out a loan and purchase capital goods. All right? People that want to buy a house, firms that want to borrow money to open a new factory or buy equipment and machinery and so forth. All right? So I'm looking at the question. The government is borrowing more money, and a really significant amount more money. So if you remember, so the government is going into debt. This is decreasing public savings. All right? And remember, the supply of loanable funds is a combination of public savings and private savings. All right? So consequently, we're decreasing the supply of loanable funds. So what we want to do is show that supply is decreasing. And so you're learning a lot in one day here. But here's how we're going to show that. On the left-hand side here, you see all these icons. The little circle in front of a square is shapes. I want you to choose Insert Line. You pick at whatever color you want. All right, I have blue. I'm going to stick with that. I want to show that supply decreases. And when you increase or decrease supply or demand, you always shift it left or right. So I want to show that supply shifts to the left. Okay? So I'm going to draw a new supply curve to the left of the old supply curve. And it's traditional in economics to show a little arrow. So I'm going to just grab my little, okay, you know what, that didn't work out too well. Hold on a second, I'm going to erase that. So let's do this. I'm going to teach you a bunch of things in one day. So I'm also going to take this insert line, and I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Okay? And I want to show an arrow. So I'm going to click on this select tool. I mouse over the line until it turns color, and you see this little menu bar. Click on this, and wrong end. I'm going to unselect that. I want an arrow on this end. Let me give you a minute to catch up. I want you to first use this Shapes tool, Shapes, and Insert Line. Draw a new supply curve to the left. Draw another line showing the direction of the shift. And then you'll use the Select tool. You mouse over it until a menu appears. Click on the three bars and choose this arrow at the end of your line. Wait a minute. Does anybody want me to wait? All right, you get points for just following along here what I'm doing too. So I want to see this on everybody's paper.
Mister, can you show me again how to do the arrow?
Yeah. Yep. So let me erase it and I'll show you from scratch. So you take your Shapes tool, go to Insert Line, just you hold the button to start the line, and then you move your mouse and you let go of the button to finish it. All right. When you're done with that, you go up here, click the select tool, and just mouse over the line till it turns color and you see this little menu. And then you don't have to click anything. You move up here to the 3 lines, and this bottom one will put an arrow at the end of the line. This first one will put an arrow at the beginning. We want an arrow at the end of the line. Let me know if you got it or if
I have a question.
Yeah.
So supply decreases and interest rate stays the same?
Okay, this is where we're going, but let's sit tight for a second. Are you comfortable with this now, Naomi?
Can you show one more time how you did the color thing for the arrow?
Well, the color, so when I just click on shape and insert line, you can choose whatever color you want. I don't care what color you choose, but if I wanted a purple line, I could do purple. But the important thing is draw the line from the original supply curve to the new one. Right? You don't need 2 lines, but I'm going to do a second one here. And then to put an arrow on it, because you want to show direction, you click the select tool, you mouse over it till it turns color, go over here and choose that bottom arrow. Did I answer your question, Asia?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, so now here's a couple more things that we want to do. I'm going to take this text box. I'm going to go up here, the new supply curve, we're going to call it S2. S2. All right, that's the new supply curve. You can change the font size. Mine's a little bit big. Yours is probably already a smaller font size, but I use a big one in the math class. All right, the second thing we want to do is I want to take this little paintbrush, all right, or you can use a line if you want to, paintbrush or the line, but see the original intersection. I want to follow this down to the x-axis, and I just want to draw a little mark here. Okay, hold on a second. That's a text box. All right, so I want the paintbrush, and I just want to draw a little mark here at the original intersection, or maybe a line would have been nicer, I guess. So I'm just going to make a little hash mark here.
Mister?
Yeah.
Do you know that many of the options are blocked?
Hit refresh. Refresh your screen. All right. And now this new intersection, I'm going to follow that down, and I'm going to make a new...
No, it's the same.
Yeah,
working on now, yeah.
Yep. And I'm going to make a new hash mark. And I'm going to make a text box. I'm going to call this L1. And I'm going to make a new text box over here, and I'm going to call this L2. All right, and you don't have to do these dotted lines that I'm going to do. I have this nice pen that makes it easy for me to do this. But this is supposed to line up with the old intersection and the new intersection point. I'm going to wait a minute. All right, now I want to do the same thing on the vertical axis. So I'm going to take my little shapes, insert line. This intersection, I'm going to follow it over to the vertical axis. I'm going to put a little hash mark here. Then I'm going to take the new intersection. I'm going to follow it over to the vertical axis, put another hash mark here. Then I'm going to make a text box. This first one is going to be R1, the first interest rate. And then this is going to be the new interest rate. And again, you don't have to do these little dotted lines, but I'm just trying to show you we're trying to make this line up with the new intersection point. We're trying to make this line up with the old intersection point.
Am I supposed to be doing what you're doing?
You're supposed to be, yes. Yes, you are.
Okay, nah, I'm just watching. I'm gonna start doing that now.
Okay. Well, all right. If you end up doing it on your problem, I'm okay. All right. But yes, I was hoping to see you do this. All right. So while you're catching up, I'm gonna start to answer, Amanda's question. So what's happened um, now? Because our government has borrowed all this money, so we've decreased the supply of loanable funds, right? Because public saving, which is a big component in the amount of loanable funds, has decreased. So what does that do? It decreases the amount of funds loaned, and it raises the interest rate, right? And over time, this is going to hurt the economy, right? The interest rate is higher, and fewer people are borrowing and loaning funds. All right, and again, these little arrows that I'm drawing in pen, you don't have to draw them, but so we can see that the amount of loanable funds decreased and the interest rate has increased. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
Yeah, I see that now. Thank you.
Does anybody want me to wait up? All right, so let's finish answering these questions. So A says use a supply and demand diagram to analyze this policy. We did that. Does the interest rate rise or fall? The interest rate rose. So I'm going to just write that next to the graph. I'm going to choose my little text box anywhere over here. I'm going to say the interest rate rises. And I've completely answered question A. Now I'm going to go look at question B. Question B has a few different parts. What happens to investment? All right. Well, what happens to private saving? What happens to national saving? There's a whole bunch of parts here. So let's just take it piece by piece. What happens to investment? Well, investment decreases. Right? There's let's put it this way: the quantity of let's put it this way: quantity of funds demanded decreases. Right? Because the demand curve is in investments, and the supply curve is savings. Let's answer the next part. What happens to private saving? All right. Well, this is kind of a tricky question. Private savings is actually going to increase because the interest rate goes up. So private savings will increase because the interest rate has increased. All right, so even though public savings is decreased, with this interest rate going up, more private parties will want to save their money, knowing that they can get a higher return on their savings. what happens to national saving? Well, national saving, public saving has decreased, right? Because the government's borrowing money. All right, and then here's some like advanced stuff here, but I'm gonna. I don't want you to draw this stuff on here, but I'm gonna show you the amount of this shift. This supply curve has shifted to the left by exactly $20 million, or is it billion dollars? Let me see, $20 billion. So the horizontal amount of this shift is $20 billion. I'm going to put some stuff on here and then erase it. But the horizontal distance from here to here is $20 billion. All right. So from here to here is 20 billion. So you can see the amount of loanable funds has decreased, but it's decreased by less than $20 billion. Okay. So I have a new equilibrium. The supply curve shifts to the left by $20 billion, but the quantity of funds loaned and borrowed decreases by less than $20 billion. Okay, let me just undo these changes.
Okay, so if the US is always borrowing money and they're always in debt, does that mean that our national saving is always low?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's our national savings is much lower than it would be if we were not borrowing. In fact, as discussed in the book, the government savings could be negative, right? If it's borrowing more than it's taking in with taxes. All right, so you only have 15 minutes left. So how much do I expect to get done in 15 minutes, especially with something new? I don't expect you to finish problem number 9. But I'm going to break you up into groups in the hopes that some of you will be able to talk. I'd like to see something started on number 9. See if you can tell me the 9A and 9B. One of them, the supply curve shifts either to the right or to the left, and the other one, the demand curve shifts either to the right or to the left. All right, see if you can tell which is which. And if you really, if you're having trouble with the sketching, write in words. Supply will shift to the right. But I really like to see you start sketching. If I saw a supply curve shift to the right or the left, even if you did the wrong thing, but I see you're starting to get comfortable with Cami, I'll consider that a positive outcome from today. All right, so I'm going to put you into some random breakout rooms. Again, I hope you're going to be able to communicate, but if you get in a room with, some bums that aren't talking, then, that's the way it goes sometimes. But let's try this out. Give me what you can in 15 minutes. Then at the end, turn it in and go enjoy your weekend. We'll resume this work on Monday. I'm going to create some breakout rooms. You guys know how to contact me if you need help, and give it a shot, please.